While doing some research for my applied metabolic newsletter the other day, I came across an interesting study involved white albino rats. Or was it mice? Let me go see here. Albino rats. What it was white albino rats, and it had to do with what happens when you. Well, I'll talk about that later, but it involves artichokes, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. Artichokes. Uh, Although often considered a vegetable, artichokes the botanical or biological name for artichokes is Cynara, and it's a type. It's actually not a vegetable. It's a type of thistle. It's not that different than famous milk thistle. In fact, artichoke also contains silymarin, which is one of the main ingredients of milk thistle that makes it so beneficial. And similarly to milk thistle or silymarin, artichoke offers some liver protection, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later in this video. This plant originated in the Mediterranean and has been used for centuries. Artichokes have been used for centuries for its potential medicinal properties. Artichokes are low in fat from a nutritional standpoint. Artichokes are low in fat. They're rich in fiber, vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. They're particularly high in folate or folic acid and vitamins C and K, and they also supply a good amount of important minerals such as magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, and iron. So it's got pretty good amount of nutrients in artichokes. One medium artichoke contains about 7 grams of fiber. That's actually 23 to 28% of the recommended daily allowance, or I'm sorry, suggested intake of fiber. So artichokes are an excellent source of fiber. Fiber is very important. I've talked about that in my Applied Metabolics newsletter and in other videos. You need fiber to nourish your intestinal microbiome, which is the population of bacteria, fungi, and other organisms that reside in the colon that have a tremendous effect on health, including the absorption of proteins, fats, carbohydrates. They affect the brain. It's a whole different video. I don't want to get into that now. But a large review published in 2018 of over 700 people found that supplementing with artichoke leaf extract daily for 5 to 13 weeks led to a reduction in total and low-density lipoprotein cholesterol. Of course, low-density lipoprotein cholesterol, or LDL. LDL is actually a protein carrier of cholesterol in the blood. It's the main carrier of cholesterol in the blood. When it's oxidized, it's closely associated with the advent of atherosclerosis and eventual cardiovascular disease, including heart attacks and strokes. Related to cardiovascular effects of artichoke, a study published in a German medical journal in 2000 of 143 adults with high cholesterol showed that artichoke leaf extract taken daily for 6 weeks resulted in an 18.5% and 22.9% decrease in total and bad LDL cholesterol, respectively. Additionally, a 2012 study of hamsters. Hamsters process cholesterol in a manner similar to humans. A 2012 study of humans reported a 30% reduction of LDL cholesterol and a 22% reduction in triglycerides after regular consumption of artichoke extract. What's more, regularly consuming artichoke extract may boost good high-density lipoprotein cholesterol in adults with high cholesterol, according to a study published in 2013 in the International Journal of Food Science and Nutrition. HDL, or high-density lipoprotein, is the type of protein carrier. It's composed of 95% protein, locks onto cholesterol in the blood, carries it back to the liver, where the cholesterol is processed into bile salts and then excreted out of the body. That's the only way the body can get rid of cholesterol, because cholesterol, unlike fat, cannot be oxidized. The only way to get rid of it is to degrade it into bile salts and have it excreted. And HDL helps to do that, and by doing so, HDL helps to prevent cardiovascular disease, including heart attacks and strokes. Artichoke appears to how does artichoke lower cholesterol? Apparently, there are two mechanisms involved, or two suggested mechanisms. First, it contains a natural antioxidant called luteolin, which is also being investigated for prevention of Alzheimer's disease. Luteolin is a very potent natural anti-inflammatory, and Alzheimer's disease has an inflammatory component. And some preliminary animal studies show that luteolin goes a long way in helping to prevent Alzheimer's disease in animals that have been genetically set up to get a type of Alzheimer's disease that's very similar to what occurs in humans. The second mechanism of how artichoke helps to prevent cardiovascular disease is that it promotes the conversion of cholesterol into bile acids, which are then excreted from the body, as I just explained. In other words, artichoke itself promotes the conversion of cholesterol into bile and helps in that way gets rid of the cholesterol. Another way that artichoke helps to prevent cardiovascular disease is by lowering elevated blood pressure. High blood pressure, also known as hypertension, is the number one risk factor for strokes. A 2000 study published in the Journal of Dietary Supplements found that 98 men who consumed artichoke daily for 12 weeks showed a significant drop in elevated blood pressure, particularly the systolic blood pressure. They consumed either 50 or 100 milligrams of artichoke juice. One way that artichoke lowers blood pressure is by promoting the activity of an enzyme that converts arginine into nitric oxide. This is the nitric oxide synthase enzyme that's located in the endothelium or lining of blood vessels. The thing is, taking this into account, it would, if you do use arginine as a supplement, or you take one of those nitric oxide booster supplements, it may be a good idea to also either consume artichokes or to take a standardized artichoke extract, because the artichoke extract will stimulate the enzyme that's rate limiting for the conversion of arginine into nitric oxide, so it would theoretically make the supplements work better. I don't think this has ever been tested scientifically, but we do know that artichoke does stimulate the endothelial nitric oxide synthase enzyme that converts arginine into nitric oxide. Artichokes are also rich in potassium, which also lowers blood pressure by opposing the effects of sodium. In other words, if you eat a lot of sodium, it's usually not a 1-to-1 ratio, but 1-to-2. In other words, if you take in 1,000 milligrams of sodium and you take in 500 milligrams of potassium, the potassium will nullify any blood pressure elevating effects of sodium. A lot of people don't know that. It's a little trick. It's very good to know if you, for example, consume too much sodium, consume a food that also contains potassium, or take a potassium supplement such as potassium citrate to offset the blood pressure raising effects of sodium. By the way, the blood pressure raising effects of sodium, as I pointed out in an article in my Applied Metabolic newsletter, are greatly overstated, I should point out. There are certain people, particularly black people for some reason, it has to do with a enzyme produced in the kidney called renin. They're more prone to having hypertension when they consume sodium, but for most people, they have to consume a huge amount of sodium to have any really significant effect on blood pressure. But just to play it safe, it's good to know that potassium will control that effect. Artichoke is especially good for liver health, as I mentioned earlier. One thing, it increases the production of bile, which is very good, takes a lot of stress off the liver. Bile is produced in the liver and stored in the gallbladder. And when you consume a meal that contains fat, the bile is excreted into the gut because the bile helps to emulsify the fat globules. In other words, what it does is it decreases the size of the fat globules from food into a smaller size, so that lipases, which are fat-digesting enzymes produced in the pancreas, can digest the fat and absorb the fat. That's what bile actually does. In one study, artichoke extract given to rats resulted in less liver damage, higher antioxidant levels, and better liver function after an induced drug overdose, compared to rats not given artichoke extract. Now, the question emerges, will artichoke help those who use oral anabolic steroids? This hasn't actually been tested, but considering its liver protective qualities, along with the stimulation of bile flow, it might help reduce some of the side effects that are induced in the liver by oral steroids. Although, again, this is pure speculation on my part, because as far as I know, it's never been tested scientifically. A 2018 study of 90 people with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which, by the way, is now in epidemic proportions with an estimated 20 million Americans walking around with non-alcoholic fatty liver. The reason they call it non-alcoholic fatty liver is because in the past, most types of fatty liver were caused by excessive intake of alcohol. And then they began to realize that you can get fatty liver without drinking any alcohol. A lot of it has to do with excessive intake of carbohydrates, fructose, or just excess calories. But the effect is the same because fatty liver is a precursor for cirrhosis of the liver, which is basically where the liver turns into scar tissue. And cirrhosis of the liver, in turn, is a precursor for liver cancer, which of course could be fatal. So a 2018 study of 90 people with non-alcoholic fatty liver revealed that consuming 600 milligrams of artichoke extract daily for 2 months led to improved liver function. In another study in obese adults with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, taking artichoke extract daily for 2 months resulted in reduced liver inflammation and less fat deposition than those not consuming artichoke extract. So it seems to have a definite effect at reducing liver fat, which is very good. By the way, liver fat is also associated with insulin insensitivity, which itself is a precursor for type 2 diabetes. What does this mean? It means that a lot of people with this, and right now they estimate 20 million Americans walking around with non-alcoholic fatty liver are probably going to, if they don't do anything about it, are going to progress to type 2 diabetes, which can kill you. Type 2 diabetics age at a rate that's 5 times faster than normal. So you want to avoid type 2 diabetes. I know because I have tremendous genetic predisposition to diabetes. Both my grandfathers had it. My father had it for years. He died from diabetic complications. And one of the main reasons why I continue to work out hard and avoid refined sugars, avoid junk foods, is my efforts to prevent myself moving to full-blown diabetes. Luckily I do show some insulin insensitivity. I keep it under control, and it's all through diet and exercise. I do take a drug called metformin. Helps a little bit. I don't think it helps that much because if I eat a lot of sugar, my blood sugar still goes into diabetic levels. So it's diet and exercise that keeps it under control. I just threw that in. Anyway, scientists think that certain antioxidants found in artichokes, specifically cynarin and silymarin, again, silymarin, the same stuff found in milk thistle, are partly responsible for the liver protective effects offered by artichoke. Artichoke aids digestive health by being a good source of fiber, and the fiber can act as a probiotic, increasing beneficial intestinal microbiome bacteria. The active ingredient in artichoke that does this is called inulin, also known as fructooligosaccharides, or FOS. Artichoke extract may also provide relief from symptoms of indigestion, such as bloating, nausea, and heartburn. Good to know also if bodybuilders tend to overeat. Well, eating artichoke with the food will help prevent some of the digestive problems like bloating and heartburn. And that goes for anybody. You don't have to be a bodybuilder. Anyone who overeats, having some artichoke with the meal will really help a lot. A 2003 study of 247 people with indigestion determined that consuming artichoke leaf extract daily for 6 weeks reduced symptoms such as flatulence and uncomfortable feelings of fullness compared to not taking the artichoke leaf extract. So it's a pretty good evidence that artichoke extract will definitely help with digestion and help reduce feelings of fullness and nausea and flatulence. Cynarin, a naturally occurring compound in artichokes, may cause these positive effects by stimulating bile production, accelerating gut movement. That's known as peristalsis, by the way, and improving the digestion of certain fats, again, through the bile effect. Irritable bowel syndrome is a condition that affects your digestive system. It's also known as IBS. It can cause stomach pain, cramping, diarrhea, bloating, constipation, and flatulence. In one study of people with irritable bowel syndrome, consuming artichoke leaf extract daily for 6 weeks helped ease symptoms. What's more, 96% of the participants rated the extract equally as effective, if not better, than other irritable bowel syndrome treatments, including antidiarrheals and laxatives. You want to try and avoid laxatives, not good for you. Another study published in 2004 of 208 people with irritable bowel syndrome discovered that 1 to 2 capsules of artichoke leaf extract consumed daily for 2 months reduced symptoms by 26% and improved quality of life by 20%. Not sure what they mean by quality of life. I assume it means less farting. You lose friends when you do too much of that. By the way, Marilyn Monroe, the famous movie actress, just say here's a little trivia for you. She was known for just, farting all the time. I mean, I consider Marilyn Monroe, for those of you who aren't old enough to know who she was, look it up on YouTube. I think she's one of the most beautiful women that ever lived. But she was hard to be around because she was constantly farting. That's a little, a little bit of trivia for you, kind of turns you off, you know what I mean? Anyway, artichoke may lower elevated blood sugar levels, or also known as blood glucose, and that way it helps prevent type 2 diabetes. A small study indicated that consuming boiled artichoke with a meal reduced blood sugar and insulin levels 30 minutes after eating. Notably, this effect was seen only in healthy adults who did not have the metabolic syndrome. The metabolic syndrome is a constellation of symptoms that includes elevated blood pressure, elevated blood glucose, wider waist, what else? Elevated triglycerides, elevated blood lipid levels such as cholesterol. All of them are risk factors for heart disease and diabetes. And this effect in this particular study, the people who tested did not have any of those symptoms, did not have metabolic syndrome. Artichoke extract has also been shown to slow down the activity of alpha glucosidase. That's an enzyme that breaks down starch into glucose, potentially impacting blood sugar. So that means that ingesting artichoke, let's say you eat a food that's high in starch, for example, pasta or potatoes, well-cooked pasta, the starch in pasta that's well-cooked, it's released almost like sugar. It's got a very high glycemic index number, meaning it hits the blood hard. Same with potatoes. When you eat them alone, the starch in there is converted to sugar almost immediately. Now, what this means is if you consume artichoke with these foods, it'll inhibit the enzyme that converts the starch into sugar, and what that means is there'll be much less of an insulin release, so you'll feel better, and you'll also the foods will also be less likely to be converted into body fat. So artichoke is good to eat with those foods. Again, if you don't like eating artichoke, I don't like eating artichoke. I take artichoke for a different reason, which I'll get to in a minute. But you can take artichoke extract, which is pretty good stuff. I use it, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Animal and test tube studies note that artichoke extract impaired cancer growth. Again, these are animal and in vitro or test tube studies. They don't have any human studies yet. But what they found in these studies is that artichoke extract kills breast cancer cells in test tubes. However, again, there are no human studies that examine the effect of artichoke in preventing cancer. Those with bile duct obstruction should avoid artichoke, as should those with gallstones, since artichoke does promote bile flow. What are the doses of artichoke? Typical doses of artichoke used in humans research range from 300 to 640 milligrams of artichoke leaf extract 3 times daily. Now, why do I use? I use artichoke. All these features are great, don't get me wrong, but I use it for a specific reason. I found some research indicating that if you consume 900 milligrams of artichoke extract, about 10 milligrams of forskolin, which is another common supplement, and you also take about 1 gram of DHEA, which is one of the 2 preformed omega-3 fatty acids, it has a great effect in stimulating the brain, particularly in reducing what they call brain fog, where you have a little trouble concentrating and your focus is down. That combination really helps. As a matter of fact, I took it today. I took it earlier today because I noticed it really aids clearer thinking. It's all natural. It cannot hurt you. And as I said, the luteolin that's found in artichoke is very good for reducing brain inflammation, and by doing so helps prevent brain degeneration, including possibly Alzheimer's disease. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, the reason that I wanted to do this video, was this study I came across just the other day, and you can see it here. Well, you probably can't read it. I'll read it to you. It says Cinera scolomus leaf extract alleviates nandrolone decoinate induced alterations in testicular function and sperm quality in albino rats. I'm not going to go into all the technical details of the study, but I will say nandrolone decoinate, for those of you who don't know, that's an anabolic steroid called decadurablin, very popular among bodybuilders and athletes. Anyway, what they did with these rats is they injected them with doses of decadurablin that are about the same amount as used by bodybuilders and athletes, and they found that the decadurablin induced quite a bit of testicular damage, and it also lowered testosterone production, which is common when you take any kind of anabolic steroids because there's an inhibition effect on your natural production of testosterone. But here's the important point. When they gave some of the rats artichoke extract, it completely obliterated all the side effects of decadurablin on the testes. In other words, it completely protected it against damage and against oxidation, and it preserved the testosterone production in the testes, right? Now, this was a white albino rat study. It was not a human study. In other words, does this happen in humans? In other words, if you eat artichoke, will it protect your testes against the effects of high doses of decadurablin? I can't say. Nobody knows. You can't really extrapolate. And I've said this many times in past videos. You can't extrapolate animal-based research to human research. Sometimes it occurs in humans. Sometimes it doesn't. But my point is, it wouldn't be a bad idea. It's certainly not going to hurt, considering all those great benefits of artichoke that I mentioned earlier. It would probably be a great idea for those of you who use steroids like decadurablin to also include either consume artichoke in your diet, or if you're like me and you don't like to eat artichoke, you could take the artichoke standardized artichoke extract, which I take. I take 900 milligrams. I only take it once a day, 900 milligrams. I don't know how much of artichoke that's equal to, but I do know it contains most of the active factors, such as those elements I mentioned earlier, silymarin and the N-accidents. The active elements that are found in artichoke do exist in the artichoke extract capsule. So, just wanted to know. I thought that was interesting that taking this natural food actually completely prevented steroid-induced damage in rats. So anyway, that's about it for artichokes. If you want to have the best and most accurate, in-depth information on nutrition, exercise science, ergogenic aids, anti-aging research you can use today, fat loss techniques that really work, food supplements, which ones work, which ones are garbage. I'm not aligned with any food supplement company, so I'm going to tell you the whole truth. I don't care where it ends. I don't care what they say. My thing is telling the 100% truth. I have no axes to grind, and you'll only get the truth in my Applied Metabolic newsletter because I'm not associated with any companies. It's just me. By the way, speaking of just me, some of these other digital publications that also have articles about nutrition and they have or exercise science, some of their staff ranges anywhere from 3 to 25 people working on these digital publications. Applied Metabolics, I can tell you how many people work on it. 1, me. Now you might say, well, how can I compete against 22 people? You know what the answer is? I have more experience and study than all of those 22 people put together. I've been looking at this stuff, this science, we've been in exercise and nutrition for 58 years. I guarantee you, without even knowing these people, not one of them can come even close to matching that. And I put everything I've learned into my Applied Metabolics newsletter. So subscribe today. I guarantee you will learn. It's written in plain English. I've been a writer for over 45 years with over 8,500 articles published. I was a science editor of Muscle and Fitness, and I've written for 26 publications over the years. I know how to write. I guarantee you'll learn something. If you really want to know the truth about nutrition and exercise, fitness, and health, you will subscribe to my Applied Metabolics newsletter. www.appliedmetabolics.com. When you subscribe, I'll send you an invitation to join my private Applied Metabolics Facebook page, where every day I post new information on exercise, nutrition, general health, and fitness. I also have an email portal on my Applied Metabolics website where current subscribers of Applied Metabolics can send me short questions which I'll answer at no extra charge. But again, that's only for current subscribers of Applied Med. I do not answer unsolicited questions. You're welcome to leave comments under these videos, suggestions for future videos. If I feel that the topics will interest enough people, I'll research it and do a video on it. But I can't guarantee I will answer questions submitted to me under the videos. I just don't have time. All my allegiance, if you want to call it that, is provided first to my subscribers because I appreciate their support of my work. So they're always going to get first preference. So that's about it. If you want to, this video went a little long, but in any case, I hope you found it interesting. If you want to have the best friend you'll ever have, the reason why Bruno is not in the video is he's over here sleeping on the couch. I didn't want to wake him up. He's a senior citizen. He needs his rest, so I didn't want to disturb him. I'll probably have him in the next video. So go to your local shelter, adopt a dog, get a best friend for yourself, just like Bruno is my best friend. Take care.